Hi guys, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel, and yes, for all my new subscribers, I'm Natalia Suri, and as you know, I do everything related to books and occult sciences. So if you love and like these two topics, you know what you need to do. Press that subscribe button because my video is full of these two books and occult sciences. You'll find everything on this channel. Yeah, but today this video is especially going out for all the aspiring authors out there who want to get their book published, because my guest today is a literary agent. Yes, her name is Mrs. Preeti Gill. She's been a literary agent for more than 2 decades. I'm going to ask her, post-COVID, how does she see the literary scene in India, and how difficult is it going to be for first-time authors to get their books published? Plus, what would be the trends in the future in the Indian publishing industry? What is it that the publishers are looking out for now, and how good is self-publishing? Apart from this, I'll be talking to her about her 2 books. She Stoops to Kill. Now this is a collection of stories, plus another book of hers called Insider and Outsider, and above all about Manjha House. You must have heard about it. It's a cultural hub in Amritsar. Now what is Manjha House and all these questions? So come, let us talk to her, and especially this one, as I said, is for aspiring authors. You can't miss this if you are writing that book and have that dream of getting it published. So come, let us talk to her. Thank you so much for joining, and it's really a pleasure that you have come in as a guest, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you so much, Natalia, for asking me to join you on this.
Ma'am, my questions are around your journey as a literary agent, your books, and the Manjha House Culture Center which you have. So, ma'am, I'll start with the literary agent part. You have been a literary agent since last 2 decades. What do you and how do you see the publishing industry after post-COVID?
So, I mean, whatever I see now after this, pandemic especially, is that it's quite a dismal picture. Basically, like all other industries, publishers have also suffered a great deal because the lockdown happened. We were barely given 4 hours before everything shut down. So nobody was really able to, put any plans in place before that happened. And suddenly everything was closed. So, whatever had been planned, all the books that had been planned for, say, March, April, May, nothing has come out. There have been virtually no sales or very little sales, because even initially when the lockdown was really severe, there was really nothing going out at all. All the warehouses were shut. There were no deliveries being done. Bookshops, of course, were all closed. So I think all of that really hit the industry very, very hard. And a lot of people have had, have let go of their staff, for example. Some people have cut down on salaries. They're giving half salaries. A lot of people have also, especially smaller publishers, independent publishers, have had to give up their office spaces because they can't afford that anymore. So in a lot of ways, I think it has really hit hard. Even the bigger publishers are giving less advance, for example, to writers. The kind of lists that they want to do now in the future will also change, and they'll get impacted by what has happened. Mainly because, you don't have the wherewithal to take on that many books. You want to keep a smaller list. You want to keep the list pretty focused on what you think is going to sell now in the future. You can't afford to just, take chances on a new writer or somebody who's completely unknown. You want to go with a bestseller. You want to go with a writer who's already known, who has an audience. So in many ways like this, I think it really impacted the industry.
And ma'am, what would you guide an aspiring writer that how should that person pitch his book when he wants to pitch it now, and what should be the entire scenario of the synopsis, the points he should keep in mind? Somebody who's totally raw.
So for someone who's very new and who's a first-time writer and is trying to get their book across, I think it's a really good idea to find yourself an agent, because the agent will then be able to lead you and to help you and guide you. And often, so one thing is, of course, the way you pitch the idea or the book that you're writing, and the second is where you're going to send that. So the editor in the publishing house is also very, very important. So if I know a certain editor is working on a certain kind of list, then I would send that book to that particular person, which the writer himself, herself may not be aware of, will in all probability have no idea about. So which is why I think getting an agent in the first place is really important. Then the pitch, of course, it should be a new idea. It should be something that you're adding on. I mean, it shouldn't be some hackneyed old story which we've all heard and read 100 times before. It has no potential then at all. Your English should be impeccable if that's what you're writing in, or whichever language you choose to write in. That has to be really good. Then it depends on the kind of genre that you choose. So your language must go according to that. So if you're doing a, detective fiction, like commercial fiction or a potboiler kind of stuff, then obviously racy writing, really, it should be good English, but it needs to be a different kind of writing. If you're trying to get into the literary fiction market, then you really need to work very hard. So I think all of these things are important. It's very, very important the way you imagine who your audience is going to be for this particular book. And I know for me personally, I just need to read a little bit. If I read one chapter or two chapters and I know that it's not catching my interest, I know that I can't sell it to anybody, because if it doesn't attract me, how do I talk about it to anybody with any conviction? And personally for me, maybe because of the places that I worked at earlier, which have been smaller presses, which have been alternate presses, feminist presses. So for me, it's important that that book must attract me. So I do not want to take on just something that I know is going to be a commercial success, even if it's going to earn me a lot of money. But I'd like to put forward something where I think a new idea is coming out, or it is a voice that has not been heard before, or a place that has not been talked of before. So those are the things that would attract me. So I think, somebody writes to you and says, this is what I'm writing. So if I like the idea, even if the thing is not totally, fantastic, you can suggest an editor, or you can edit yourself if that's what you feel like doing. But I think the crux of it is that the story should be good, and the way it is put forward must be really good.
Ma'am, now people do self-publishing, but do you feel after this post-COVID time where, people have put books on Kindle because of the availability not being there, so these people who try and do self-publishing, they'll be more encouraged to do self-publishing, seeing that, books are selling on Kindle. What will be your view on this?
I think that a lot of people are doing self-publishing, and it's mainly because everybody's writing, and everybody thinks that they are doing a good book, which may not always be the case, but of course it's very difficult to tell people that no, you need to work on this, or you need to, so they often go this self-publishing way, which is not to say that it's a bad thing, but there are certain things in which it becomes difficult, which is finding a distribution channel, because then you have to really promote everything by yourself. You need to push it out, whether it's on social media or other groups that you may have, or bloggers or whatever. So you need to find those channels to push the book, begin conversations around it, and that is a bit difficult to do. So when you already have a publisher who's helping you to put the book out in the retail market, who already knows the channels, who knows the ways of doing the publicity, the PR, the sales, the whatever. It just becomes a little easier. So for me, I would say self-publishing is fine if you know how to distribute it and you know how your book is going to sell outside. So if you have that already worked out, then yes, go ahead.
Ma'am, my next question is, according to you, what are the publishing houses looking for now, and what kind of stories would trend in the future?
I think classics for one will always sell. Literary fiction will definitely continue to sell, even if it not in huge numbers, but it's something that does fast read, things that you read really quickly. So the kind of stuff that you want to travel with, for example, which is fast kind of reading, those will sell. And self-help, which always does well. Then all this whole thing of the mind, body, spirit, things which we are now really facing, mental health being such a major issue now that we're looking at, our own stress levels and all. So I think all of those kind of things would definitely do well. I think that audiobooks, for example, a lot of stuff should go into audio because it's again another segment that we don't explore. But hearing stories also helps a lot, and especially for older people, for people who maybe their eyesight is no longer so good and they still love a good story, but they can't read that much. So we need to explore newer ways of marketing and newer ways of finding readership.
And ma'am, you said that story should be good, but with a good background of English. Now, sometimes the English doesn't match the story. So, can an average storyteller get through in the Indian publishing industry?
Yeah, of course they can, because there's enough help, no? So if you have a really good story, I mean, an editor can always help you to polish and clean. That can always be done. But if you do not have a story that is good, and then your English is also poor, then, or whichever language, I'm not necessarily talking about English, whichever language you choose to write in, content for me is king. So if the content is not there, then, that's a really poor substitute. You don't have a good story, and then you're just trying to fumble around, and it doesn't work at all.
Okay. And ma'am, what would you tell those writers who can't make it to the top 5 publishing houses? We have a mindset where if I don't get through the top 5 publishing houses, I won't publish my book. That is a very strong mindset which I have heard from people. What would you tell those people? Can they still be successful, and what is the scope for them?
Yeah, I don't think one should think like that, because there are enough publishers out there publishing in different areas, in different kinds of genres, and there is space for good writing, and there is space for you if you have written a good book. So even if it's not the top 5, multinational or whatever big publishers that come to mind right away, there are enough independents who will take on a good book. So again, I say that, like I said in the beginning, that if you have an agent or you have somebody who's advising you, you know where to pitch that book. So you need not even go to maybe the 5 big publishers. If you know that it's something which will attract a feminist publisher, for example, that's the person you'll go to. If you know that it's somebody who's doing a good list on say Dalits or on sexuality or whatever, you know where to pitch the book then. So it does not necessarily have to be just those. In fact, it works much better because that smaller publisher will probably work much more for you, because your book will be in a list which is it's like building a certain list which has similar kinds of titles. So people will look for you with that publisher. So I don't think you should feel bad about it or constrained in any way, because, the field is wide open, and if you've written a good book, it will sell.
Ma'am, coming to the questions of your journey as a writer, you have done She Stoops to Kill, Stories of Crime and Passion. It's a collection of stories from various authors. Now, I have got 2 questions to this part. Why the title Crime and Passion together? And what motivated to bring this collection forward?
Yeah, so it's quite a strange thing. One, of course, is the fact that I myself read a lot of crime fiction. I watch a lot of crime serials on Netflix and other OTT channels. I enjoy them. I like them. And I think that there's too little of it as far as Indian writing is concerned. So that was one of the motivators. And then it so happened that crime and passion, because, they go together. It's, one always leads to the other. So mostly murders are committed out of something that you feel deeply, a passion or whatever. So I feel that it's more like something that one comes to because you're so feeling so deeply involved or so deeply concerned about something or upset about something. Anyway, so this thing of course came about because we happened to be sitting at Guwahati airport, Paro, Anand and I, and we were just generally chatting. We were returning from some book fair and the flight was late and we were just sitting there. And then I just asked her that do you only write for children or do you also write, have you ever written anything else for adults? So then she told me that she'd written this one story which was about a murder and that she had just had a fight with her husband and then she went quickly and wrote this story. So to me that seemed like, oh, okay, so let's put together an anthology of writers, women writers who do not normally write about murder and crime, but who could be asked to do so and who might make an interesting anthology out of it. So that's how the whole thing started, and Paro and I decided, okay, fine, let's get together some writers and start off. So that's how this anthology came, and it's done really well. It's got great reviews. I think most people have really enjoyed it. It's got a good bunch of 8 writers, 8 women, and each of the stories is very different from the other, and they're great fun.
Okay, ma'am, coming to your book Insider Outsider, which is a bunch of short non-fiction essays and poems that address the issue of the Northeast. Now, ma'am, how do you link yourself to the Northeast? How does this connection come in your life?
Yeah, that also again is like going back to a very, very long time. At least I've been traveling in the Northeast now for about maybe 22 years or so quite a long time, because I've done projects over there. I've also worked on research for films and things over there. And it all started basically because at that point I was working with a journal called The Book Review, and we wanted to take out an issue which was looking at the writers from the Northeast. And when we tried to look for books and writers, we basically couldn't find anything except Mamani Goswami, who was in Delhi and heading the languages department in DU. So apart from her, we really didn't have any names, and it was a really shameful thing that we didn't know anything. And so that was the first time that I went to Assam. I met a bunch of writers, I took interviews, I read lots of stuff which was there in translation, and then I realized that it's really difficult to find stuff, because although you find a lot of Bengali novels, Bengali literature which has been translated into English, it's the same with Odia, for example, which are all states which are in the same geographical area. But to find stuff from Assamese into English was much more difficult and much more rare. And I think that is what set me off on this journey of trying to find writers whom we could start publishing in a list which would then bring them to the so-called Indian mainland and make them accessible over here. So that's how the journey started, and I found lots and lots of good writers, made lots of friends, and it's an interest and a love which has actually stayed with me over all these years. So that's how this book also came out, like trying to find we are all insiders and outsiders. So this whole feeling of, do you belong really, or which is the point at which you belong and which is the line which you then cross and then you don't belong. So for me, all these questions became really important to see. And this book is a bunch of really personal essays from different people. So there are journalists and academics and poets and writers who have all put down very personal essays about how they feel about this whole conundrum of being an insider and an outsider at the same time. So I think for me it was an important book.
Ma'am, can you share something about your latest book on Punjab which you are writing?
So it's again, I'm not writing it. I am basically the editor of the book, which means I'll do an introduction and I have a bunch of writers who are giving me essays for the book. The book came out because my father and I at that point thought that Punjab is another neglected area. So much like the Northeast, which has very little written on it, at least a few years back. Now there's much more happening. Punjab too has very, very few, really good books which come out on Punjab. And recently, of course, there was Amandeep Sandhu's book, which was pretty phenomenal actually, because it really lays out all the problems and all the recent history of Punjab. And so my dad and I decided at that point, this was about 3 years ago or so that we should put together a bunch of essays which would look at the three Punjabs. So there's East Punjab, which is ours. There's West Punjab, which is Pakistan now, and there's Diaspora Punjab, because Punjabis are spread in, all over the world. And so let's try and see what is the Punjabi identity and what really interests them and involves them and still keeps them rooted to, Punjab and to Punjabiyat. So that is what we were trying to explore. So now that book it's gone to the publisher, so I'm hoping it will come out this year. I mean, it's all going to get pushed, I think, like I just said, that, all the lists are all there. But since nothing has come out for the past 3 months, we can expect that all the, list is going to the schedule will go completely haywire. So it will hopefully come out this year.
My last question is around Manjha House. Can you share something more about it being a cultural center and a literary center? What is it and how did that idea come?
So Manjha House is basically located in Punjab, in Amritsar. And we took this name Majha because that is the region. It's a locational name. It's the Majha region of Punjab was Amritsar, Gurdaspur and Lahore. It has now, of course, been divided up, and partly we are this side and part of Majha is on the other side now. So about 2 years back or so, we inherited the house, which is actually my in-laws' house in Amritsar. And we decided, like, we don't live there, we live in Delhi, and we didn't want to sell it, we didn't want to give it out on rent or anything, but we wanted to use it for something which was important for the community. And so we thought that a good way to do this would be actually to give it to the public, to let people come there, to use it as a platform for literature and for culture and for performance and, arts and ideas and stuff like that. So we did that, and we started with we opened our doors literally to the public in March 2018 with the Literature Festival for 1.5 days. And it really took off very, very well, because I think people there were hungry for a space which they could come to and listen to really, brilliant writers and brilliant minds who come and ideate over there and have discussions and talks. So we had about 200 people come on that first festival, and we did it outside in the lawn because it was March, it was great weather, and so it was really wonderful. And we continued to do that. So we've had 4 festivals now. We were supposed to have one in March, again, 3rd week of March, but then we had to call everything off after this pandemic started. But we've continued to do stuff online, and we are having sessions every week from Manjha House. So now that people can't come to Manjha House is actually going to their homes, and we are trying to bring the same kind of thing, discussions and readings and stuff, to people in their homes now. And these are going really well because one of the things that has happened because of the pandemic is that you can become you can get an audience from anywhere across the world. So we have people who are joining from Tokyo and from Australia and the US and UK and all over the place. So if the topic is interesting enough, people join. And we've also started 2 new initiatives right now, one of which is called the Punjab Dialogues, where we have tied up with a number of younger and grassroots kind of groups in Punjab. So we try to bring the problems of Punjab center stage and talk about them. So we do this once a month, and we choose one topic. So supposing it's industry or agriculture or whatever, then we get somebody to talk about that, and then people come in and have questions, and that is about an hour and a half we do that. Then there's another thing we've started which is called Sanja Punjab, which means a Punjab that is, has a collective identity and a collective culture. So that we've started with East Punjab and West Punjab. So we are not talking about the 2 countries. We are not talking politics. We don't want to get into anything like that. This is basically a shared culture and a shared history. We know it's a shared language, there's folk tales, there's food, there's music. So there's plenty to, to try and create this kind of bond which exists between Punjabis on both sides. So these are the 2 initiatives. They could not have happened if we didn't have online stuff going on now. So yeah, in some ways I think this lockdown and this whole thing has worked, at least in our favor in these respects.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your time, and especially your advice for aspiring writers, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you very much. That has been wonderful, and thank you for contacting me and getting me on your channel.
So guys, I was in conversation with Mrs. Preeti Gill. You have the questions, my email address is given below. And yes, I will be waiting for your views and comments. How did you like today's video? Do share them. And as usual, before I go, I need to remind you of my blog, www.nataliasuri.com. It has got a lot of articles from religious mysteries to book reviews. And yes, if you're a James Patterson fan like I am, I keep posting in a lot of reviews, especially about his books and many more, plus about some series. And yes, do check them out. You are going to love it. So yeah, do take care of yourself, and yes, do join me in my next video, which I'll be posting in very soon. Till then, you know what you need to do. You need to take care of yourself and keep smiling, because you look beautiful when you smile. Yes, and take care. Bye, with lots and lots of love.